Welcome to this week's episode of Your Stock Request for the 3rd of October. Hi, I'm Gable, Managing Director of Fairmont Equities. Your Stock Request is a weekly video where I take your requests and analyse the share price charts. This week we have the ASX 200, so the XJO, Whitehaven Coal, Nanosonics, Cube and Crius Energy. So if you have a request, send it through. Make sure you have shared this video on social media. Make sure you've signed up to the free newsletter. And just remember, any advice here is general only. So this is a daily chart of the ASX 200. Today's going to be a negative day, so we're essentially going to be back to where we were at the beginning of June. So no progress in the last sort of 3.5, 4 months. In terms of the way the market's been trading, it looked interesting about a month ago on a break through 6,000. So if I switch over to, if we have a look at the 50-day weighted moving average, which is something we've been keeping an eye on, obviously it looked negative early August, and then by the end of August it was clear it wasn't going to break down, and in early September we got back above that 50-day moving average, and yesterday we came right to the top of it. So a breakthrough sort of 6,000 was a positive, but obviously today we're looking at a possible 100-point drop, so we're going to break through support again, and that means we need to start to be cautious once again on the market. So in terms of key levels, obviously this low at 6,400 is going to be a key level. It'd be interesting to see if the market makes a higher low and perhaps consolidates in more of a flat fashion. Otherwise we'd be looking at about 6,300. So the way I got that is if we measure the move down here and assume we get a 3-wave decline where we have A, B, C, where C equals A, takes us down to 6,300. What's interesting is if we measure, if we get out our Fibonacci tool and measure the move from end of last year to the recent peak, the 38.2% retracement level is fairly close to that 6,300 level, give or take sort of 10-20 points. So if 64 doesn't hold, I think 63 will offer some pretty good support. So that's only about 5% away. All right, moving on to Whitehaven Coal. So on the weekly chart, we can see it's basically been in a downtrend for over a year now. As a slight positive, to the naked eye, it looks as though the range is starting to tighten up a bit, but really there's not much else from a positive point of view. When we look at the daily chart, I can't see anything yet that's going to indicate a bounce in Whitehaven Coal, so I think the risk is still to the downside. Okay, Nanosonics, so look fairly good looking chart in terms of we had this sort of consolidation over June, July, August, and then we had an upside break, and then it came back in September to retest that June high before bouncing, so that was quite a positive sign. Obviously failed to kick on over the last few days. Longer term the trend still looks fine, but we may well see it pull back into this gap just under $6 in the short term. So short term, yeah, it looks like we'll see a bit of a pullback into this gap, but longer term there's nothing really wrong with the trend. Cube, so we'll start off with a weekly chart. So basically a few months ago we had an upside break, so we had this longer term ascending triangle with an upside break. So given the length of time this was building up for, we should see a fairly sustainable rally that should go on for a number of months. Shorter term though, we had the stock Goex dividend and it's held in pretty well, sort of rounded out here, almost a cup and handle in a sort of on a smaller scale on the daily chart. But I think if we get some market weakness, we may well see it come back into this range, and I think $3 will offer very strong support for it in the shorter term. Longer term, it still looks good. Finally, Crius Energy. So if we have a look at the daily chart, sort of looked interesting at the end of August there. We had this sort of upside break with a little decent rally there. It's now come back into the range. Should be a bit of support around here. Otherwise, the major level we need to look at is the prior low in August. So that's the next major line of support. If it fails this line here, is that 30-cent level. It needs to hold on to that low. Okay, well, that's it for this week. If you have a request, send it through and we'll try to look at it next Thursday for you.